We're in the month of December now, and that means Christmas season is coming. So I'm gonna go through in this month and talk about Christmas movies. But I think a good way to start off, and this is a little bit different from the normal videos I put out, because normally when I put out list videos, I put out my favorite of this genre, my favorite of this, or something like that. This time I'm gonna be talking about some Christmas movies that are Christmas classics that I've heard a lot of great stuff about, but somehow I still haven't had the chance to watch them yet. This is not going to be anything like the normal list I put out because I can't say all the great stuff about these movies. Might be able to talk about some of them a little bit just from what I've heard. But for the most part, these are movies I've never seen before. So this list is more of what to look forward to in this month of I'm going to put out reviews for some of these movies. The first one is The Santa Claus. The Santa Claus is a movie that I've heard great stuff about. My family actually once owned the VHS of the second one. We got it from someone else. We never watched it actually. Maybe some of my older siblings might have watched it once. I don't know. But I remember seeing it on the shelf, and I've never seen the first one. I've never seen the sequel. I think there's a third one as well. Never seen any of them. I've heard great stuff. I've heard some interesting stuff about it. I've watched people like the pitch meeting by Ryan George on it, but I've never actually seen the movie before. I don't know. I'll probably check it out sometime because it sounds like a very interesting story, very funny story, but yeah, I've never actually seen it before. Next one is another one that's a big Christmas classic. I don't know how I still haven't seen it because I've seen so many, back when I was a little kid, I saw VHS, put commercials before your VHS starts. I'm sounding so dated right now. But yeah, on one of the VHSs, I think it was for like a Christmas movie. There was a Christmas story. It was advertising a Christmas story. It was a Christmas classic that they were advertising on this VHS. Still haven't seen the movie. I know there's a scene where Santa kicks the main character down a slide. I know that I think this is the movie where there's a scene where someone gets their tongue stuck to a pole. Pretty sure that's this movie. That's the biggest thing I remember from those commercials was that the whole scene with getting stuck to the pole, and I'm like, oh, that's terrifying. But yeah, I still haven't seen this movie. I know there's something about how the main character wants a rifle for his Christmas. I don't know. I still haven't seen this movie. Again, this is a really different type of list I'm putting out this time because I have not seen these movies before. I'll probably check out this one sometime just because I hear it's a Christmas classic and I've heard some funny stuff about it. I have seen the newest version of it and I've saw the old version of it. But I still haven't seen the live-action version of How the Grinch Stole Christmas. I hear it has some good stuff in it. I've heard people also say it's terrible, so I don't know. This is probably one of the big ones I'm going to try to get to review this year because I don't know. I've been wanting to watch this for a while now, see what my thoughts are on it, but I still haven't seen it. It looks kind of like How the Grinch Stole Christmas should not be a live-action thing based off of it looks kind of like dark and gritty, and I don't know. I haven't watched it yet, but I'm gonna watch it and tell you my thoughts about it hopefully this year. Next one is Die Hard. I know technically a lot of people don't think this is a Christmas classic, but probably one of the biggest things people always is the controversial of is it a Christmas movie or not a Christmas movie. I haven't seen it yet. Now this one makes a little bit more sense why I haven't seen it yet because a lot of times when it comes to Christmas movies, I watch the Christmas movies I grew up with. And this one is not one I could have grown up with because it's not for kids. But I still haven't got the chance to watch Die Hard yet. So I'm probably going to try to put that on my list of movies to watch because last year I was tempted to try to watch it and see if I could put it on my list just for the funniness of adding myself to the controversy of Die Hard is one of my favorite Christmas movies, but I didn't get to see it yet, so I didn't. But yeah, the only movie I actually bothered to watch last year to prepare for that was Home Alone. I hadn't seen it up until a week before making that video because again it probably would have gone on this list if I hadn't got to watching it. But basically, yeah, I haven't seen Die Hard and I'll probably watch it hopefully this year just for the fun of saying, hey, I watched the Christmas movie. So, I don't know. I think it sounds like a pretty fun movie, so yeah, probably check it out. This one's another one that's kind of a Christmas movie. It's a Christmas Halloween movie. I still haven't seen this. Now, funny story behind this, and actually kind of not funny story. One thing I remember, I know some of the songs from this, but one of the biggest things I remember from this about this movie is that little background story about my life. When I was a little kid, I walked into the kitchen when my older sister had a friend over. And they were just, I think they were making like donuts in the kitchen or something. I don't know. But the point is, I was in the way, and my sister walked past with a pan of boiling hot oil. And she dumped some on top of me because I was in the way, got a bunch of really bad burns, and I had to have like my hand in ice over the night, and it was bad. But the thing about it is, I remember coming downstairs to get more ice and walking past as my older sister and her friend, who were having a sleepover, was watching A Nightmare Before Christmas. So every single time I think of this movie, I think of that whole incident with the boiling hot oil and how painful that was. So that's a little funny thing behind this. But yeah, I still haven't seen this. Technically, it's, I don't know, it's kind of a Halloween movie, kind of a Christmas movie, goes in both categories. But I've always wanted to watch this movie because it sounds like very weird, and it's such an interesting version of a Christmas movie that I don't know, I've always been tempted to watch it, and I still haven't got to it yet. Funny thing behind this one is that over the summer I was working a job, and I was talking to a friend of mine who was working with me, and we got into conversation, and I mentioned the book, The Polar Express, and she was like, wait a second, there's a book about it? Is it based off of the movie? And I had to explain that actually the book had come out before the movie, and the movie was an adaptation of the book. It was a really, really hilarious thing, but yeah, I still haven't seen this movie. I've heard that the movie is really weird, and a terrible adaptation of the book. Knowing me, I'm definitely one of those people who, when I hear that, I'm even more tempted to watch it, because I'm like, how could they make this book that weird? So I'm really tempted to watch this movie, and I still haven't gotten to it yet. Looks like the animation is really strange, but yeah, some people think of this as a Christmas classic. I met multiple people who haven't ever read the book and only watched the movie. And one of the biggest things I know is that when I was talking to one person who grew up watching this movie, they said, wait a second, in the book there's not a ghost that haunts the train? And I'm kind of confused and very tempted to watch this movie, because what is going on with this ghost on the train? I am... What? What? So, yeah. I cannot wait to watch this movie and figure out what's going on with that ghost. Next one, Jingle All the Way. I kind of heard about this movie a little bit when I was a little kid, but mainly it was more recently that I heard about it. Arnold Schwarzenegger plays as a dad trying to get a Christmas gift for his son, and he goes through all this effort to try to get it. That's all I know about it right now, but it sounds like a pretty interesting movie, pretty funny comedy. I'll probably check it out sometime just to be like, hey, what is this movie? What is it? Like, I don't know. It sounds like a pretty funny movie. Probably check it out sometime. Jack Frost is another movie that, just like with A Christmas Story, I remember seeing commercials for this on VHS when I was a little kid, and I probably always thought it was a really funny movie. It looked like a really funny movie, but I still never got this. I never watched it. It was one of those things where, for anyone for those who've been following this channel may have like picked up on this a little bit, but really in my family, we had all VHSs that we watched. We owned these VHSs, and we watched these all the time. And so I was never introduced to new movies. To this day, I still haven't seen really most of the newer Disney movies. I've seen Tangled and Frozen, but my siblings like talking about Moana and different movies like that. And somewhat, I was older by that time, so I wasn't watching movies with my little siblings, but for the most part, I still haven't, like, my family was never that big on watching newer movies. We just watched the same movies over and over again, so a lot of the movies I grew up with were early 2000s or like 1990s. like those are the type of movies I would watch because those are the movies my older siblings would watch when they were younger, and thus those were the movies I watched. I wasn't introduced to really any Disney movies until I was like close to being a teenager. But yeah, basically, I haven't seen Jack Frost. It looks like a funny movie about a snowman. Yeah, I'll probably check it out. Hopefully this year, we'll see. Now this is a movie I didn't like. I heard about it as a little kid, but this not unlike some of the ones on this category where it was like I was seeing commercials and all this stuff for it. This one, I heard about it as like along with stuff like It's a Wonderful Life. I grew up watching It's a Wonderful Life and different movies like that. So this was in the same category around the same time we had it happened on 5th Street. I knew that this was another Christmas movie out there, and I never watched it. I mean, it was one of those things where the older Christmas movies we would watch was the 1950s A Christmas Carol and It's a Wonderful Life. So those were the older Christmas movies we would watch. So I heard about this movie and the next one on the list, but I never really watched it because it was not in our list of movies we would watch every year. That's kind of how it works with Christmas movies. Not just in my family, but just in general. Most families have a Christmas classic list that they watch every year, and yeah, it never got put on the list, so we never watched it ever. Just like with It Happened on 5th Avenue, Meet Me in St. Louis was one of those things where I heard about it, but I never watched it, and I still haven't watched it. My parents have talked about it, people I know have talked about it, but I've never actually watched it. It's another apparently Christmas classic, still haven't watched it. I don't know much about this one, but I plan to watch it at some time because it sounds interesting. So this one is something that I never got to watch last year, but because I ran out of time and I was busy with stuff, and so I never watched it. But I desperately wanted to watch this, and desperately wanted to watch it. I wanted to watch it before putting out that review, just like with Home Alone, but I never got to watching this one. But it sounds really interesting, and I watched the trailer for it last year, and I was like, dude, I can't wait to watch this. And this whole year, I haven't got to watch it yet. Hopefully. And this is the biggest one on the list that I'm put a big effort into. I'm going to try to watch it this year, put out a review by Christmas this year, because I really want to watch this movie. It sounds really interesting. It follows how the story of A Christmas Carol was made. The trailers look amazing, and I really want to watch it. That's one of the main reasons why I made this list and this video. I wanted to just tell you guys about what I want to do this year for Christmas and all, what type of videos I want to put out this year. It's all about Christmas movies I haven't watched yet that are Christmas classics, but the main thing is I want to put out there this one movie and try to make it so top of my list. I need to watch this movie and put out a review for this movie because this movie sounds amazing. So fingers crossed that I'll actually be able to watch The Man Who Invented Christmas. It sounds so interesting, and I really want to watch it. So guys, tell me your thoughts below. How many of the ones on this list have you watched? Do you like the ones on this list? If you have watched them, do you think they're all not worth watching? Tell me in the comments below if no, don't bother even watching these. They're not worth it. Tell me if there's any classics in your family that I missed on this list, and I'll tell you if I've actually watched it or not. Again, you guys can go back and watch my video last year on the top 10 Christmas movies I love. And yeah, tell me your thoughts on your favorite Christmas movies. And look forward to this month, a bunch of Christmas movies. Thank you guys for watching. If you guys haven't yet, please subscribe. This has been the Movie Night Reviewer. Peter Ware, signing off.